Welcome to the Music and Sound Alumni webinar. Our graduates are a talented bunch and we can't wait to share their stories with you of what life's been like since graduating from USW.
Hi Ramesh, thanks for joining us today.
No worries, good to see you.
Yeah, and so we're going to be primarily talking about this new BA Music Producing degree that University of South Wales are launching and they're about to validate, which I know you've had had a look at and given us some feedback on. But you were a student at University of South Wales yourself, weren't you?
I was, yeah, many years ago. But yeah, I had a great time there.
Yeah, so Ramesh, obviously a world-renowned and highly successful music producer, sitting in your fabulous long wave studios, not far from where I'm sitting in the university. But you were originally a student at the University of South Wales before you became the producer that you are now. So could you tell us about that whole experience of joining a university to study production and engineering, and just how about the whole journey at the uni for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was there, many years ago now, but I think it was like a natural progression for me. After finishing high school, I was getting really interested in production, sound engineering, all that stuff was like fascinating me, and I wanted to learn more and get a qualification in it as well. So I wanted to stay. For me, I wanted to stay nearby home because I was kind of building my studio at the time, and I was kind of it made sense for me to stay nearby. But so I picked this university, and yeah, it was great. It was it was everything that I wanted in terms of being able to learn more about techniques, production, even like the business side of things. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so it was interesting that you mentioned the sort of business aspect that you learnt about as well, because I think those sort of things of learning techniques and skill sets in isolation, but it's then obviously putting them into real world practice, which obviously you've then gone on to do extensively. But could you pick out like one or two things that you found really useful to you studying, at the HM, and also obviously being around the Cardiff area, which is obviously where your studio is as well. Sort of the whole process of learning. Was there a couple of things that you really found extremely helpful into sort of starting your career as a professional?
I think like just being able to get like the business side is such a huge thing, because I think people don't realize the further you go on in a career in being a producer or songwriter, whatever it is, that business stuff suddenly becomes super important, and it's the difference between you getting screwed on a deal or whatever. So I think that stuff was very important to learn, and to grasp how contracts work and points and stuff, stuff that's super important for you later on down the line. So yeah, that was important. I think for me as well, just getting hands-on experience with being able to sit in front of a console, that stuff, like the very one that you're sat next to there. Stuff like that's really important, because it gives you the confidence then for when you go into an actual session, that you don't feel scared of being in front of one. Because I think a lot of people, when they look at a console, they get kind of like, well, what does all this stuff do? And as soon as you learn it, it's like, actually this is really it's logical.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like being being on a course like that and having experience, being able to kind of have that first-hand experience, and giving you the confidence, that was I think that's really important, was really important to me.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, exactly what you said. I mean, people have said to me loads of times when they look at a desk and they go, "Oh my God!" But it's like, okay, once you've worked out what one channel, it's
Well, yeah,
just
people always ask that classic question, do you know what all those buttons do? And it's like, like it's once you learn the channels, and that's it. It's like being taught, being taught things like input routing and just how the signal flow is. And then once you learn that stuff, it's not so hard then. It's like, oh, that's how it works, you know.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I think things like, you know, being able to learn things like signal flow and, you know, and then once you've learned the basics, then when, you know, you get onto more complicated routing and stuff like that, all those things will help you in the real world when you know, get into a studio environment. Those things will stick in your head for the rest of your life.
Yeah, of course. And I suppose it's because you already learned it in a sort of quote unquote safe environment of being in a university where
Yeah, where you can make mistakes.
exactly, and it's also actually it's quite good to make mistakes because then you remember from your mistakes, and it's that.
Yeah, for me, I think you always learn through mistakes. You know, that's how you learn. You know, once you've figured out, once you've made that mistake, you'll never make it again, and then that
Yeah.
makes you a better engineer or producer or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's just take you back briefly. So you graduate from the university. So how did your career then progress? I mean, obviously to where you are now, that's a whole other conversation. But how did it then sort of start again, if you like, from coming out of university, or were you carrying on at the same time?
I mean, so through my time at university, I was already building my kind of career, I guess. I was already you know, working with bands, and I was looking for bands that I thought were it. I think the whole thing with this, you know, with what I do is you need to find artists that are great to work with because they will help push your career as well. So and I think uni's a great place to do that because there are so many bands around. You know, all you have to do is network a bit with the people on the, you know, the music courses, and you know, and then if you can work together with bands and make the production sound really good, that will take, you know, help your career. And that's kind of what happened with me, I guess. You know, it was bands I was working with at the time, you know, we were working together, they were getting bigger, and then people wanted to work with whoever produced their record, and then it just kind of, you know, if you catch that wave and do it right, then I guess, you know, that's a really good way of helping you kind of you know, push your career along.
Yes, so we're about to validate the new BA Honours in Music Producing course, which I know you've had a look at. What do you think the benefits would be for sort of up and coming students who want to become professionals? Want, you know, if they're for studying on a course like that?
I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier about learning a lot of the things that you don't necessarily think you need to know, but will, you know, you will need those skills later on, as you kind of progress your career. So you know, like I was talking about earlier, like things like the business side of things and getting hands-on experience with equipment and learning stuff in, as you said, a safe environment where you can make those mistakes. I think all those things are like really important, and I think like the, you know, the new course kind of will really help people get that knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, great. And I think it's also that thing, and I know we've spoken about this before as well, is like things, yeah, which is exactly what I said, things you think or thought you didn't think you'd need to know, can quite often be sort of style of production or genre specific as well, because obviously you get it's the demarcation of like more like the old school producer where it's with the desk, etc., and then you get the sort of more what people call the DJ producers, for want of a better word, which is more sort of specifically in the box, and they may really only be used to a certain style of music, and then
Yeah.
say like a rock producer doesn't really do like EDM or hip hop. But I think that sort of university thing, you kind of get exposed to all those things, don't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one great thing about being in a university environment is having access to people who do lots of different music. Like for instance, for me, I just finished mixing a record for an artist based in the US, and it was rock, which is what I do, but it was also mixed with EDM.
Yeah,
So by learning techniques and bouncing off other students and kind of refining, you know, being able to work in those things, you know, you can over time go into your own niche
yeah,
and, you know, and do that, but things will trip you up along the way. So like for instance, I had to merge EDM elements with what I do, which is more rock stuff. So it's important to kind of be able to, like I said, like network with other students and try and learn from them as well, and you'll build up more knowledge, for yourself, which will make you a stronger, stronger engineer or producer or mixer.
Is there any advice or tips you'd give to a prospective student wanting to study on the music program here?
Yeah, I think the main piece of advice that I always give to people is make sure that everything you do is of the the best it can be, because you never know who's going to hear that piece of work that you've done. There's been so many times where I've made a record for a band and it's been picked up by a major label, and it obviously the band were great, but it was a surprise, and you want that to be the best it can be. So like I think with every mix or every piece of work you do, you never know who's going to listen to that and what it could lead to. So I think always take pride in your work and make sure it's the best that it can be.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That is, yeah, a huge testament, and you can't really give any more better advice than that. I think that's absolutely perfect. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, I mean that's great advice for upcoming producers. Is like soak up everything and don't be afraid to fail and take learn from everyone. Which then brings me on to the fantastic forum you've got set up called the Control Room on Facebook, which is a mixture of sort of very experienced high-end pros and then almost like some semi-pros and new producers. And I go on it every day, and there's always amazing deals to be had.
Yeah.
Some awesome deals on plugins and what have you. But it's such a great forum, and I find it super interesting. Could you just explain a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I set it up because I was getting lots of questions from people who were learning with, how do you get this kind of sound, or how do you do this? And so I set up Control Room because I wanted it to be a place where people can learn loads of information. And now it's amazing because there are producers in there who have done, just Grammy nominated, Grammy winning producers, people who've sold millions of records, and you can just ask them, they're so generous with sharing tips and techniques, and so it's been great to learn. I've been doing this for a long time, and I still pick up new stuff that I'm like, oh, I'm going to try that. That sounds really good. So yeah, it's an online audio community. It's www.control-room.net. You can just come and check it out. There's loads of discounts as well on plugins and audio equipment. So yeah, and there's multi-tracks you can download. So if you're coming on the course, then it'd be worth joining, and you can download some multi-tracks which will help you with the stuff that you learn on the course. You can put it into action then as well. So
yeah, it's brilliant. And from my point of view, even though it's not about me, it's such a great forum. I love it. I go on it every morning. It's fantastic. Well, I'm having first place. I love it. It's great, and it's fun as well. And there's loads of great tips. But it just seems like a really nice. As you said, there's like people are really generous with their time.
It's a friendly community, yeah. Which is what you want when you're trying to learn stuff,
Yeah, exactly.